Welcome, everybody, to Spirituality Adventures. This is a non-judgmental place to explore spirituality. We're glad you're tuning in. Today, we are excited to have my niece, Lauren Hawkins, with us today. So fun to have a family member to interview today. So thanks, Lauren, for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Glad you're here. So some of the folks tuning in won't know you. So why don't you give a little bit of your background and how we got connected and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So I started going to the Vineyard actually with my family probably when I was a sophomore in high school. And then I also went to Platte County High School where I met my now husband, who is your nephew, who is very good looking, by the way.
Hey.
Yeah. But yeah, so I am your niece through marriage.
Yeah. And so just for fun, you guys met at high school.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Platte County High School. Mm-hmm. You were how old?
We were 15. We were in seminar class together. And yeah, so I mean, I liked him throughout high school. And our first date wasn't until after we graduated on our senior trip. So yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And you were just telling me you had moved to Platte City from
Naples, Italy.
Naples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's a bit of a culture shock because just how it sounds, moving from Italy to Platte City, Missouri. So, but it was great. I mean, I lived in Italy for 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And then 10th, 11th, and 12th was in Platte City. So,
okay.
I got to see a lot of things. But
so after high school, you...
I went to the University of Kansas, and I got my bachelor's in communication studies. And then I graduated in 2009 when the economy was like real bad and couldn't really get a job. And so I decided to go back to school, and I went for communication sciences and disorders to get my degree to be a speech pathologist. So I went to Rockhurst for 3 years for my master's.
3 masters.
Yeah.
And just a little thing I was always impressed with was that you were a rower.
I was.
At KU.
A short rower, but I was one, in fact. Yeah. There was a sign that said, walk on to a Division I sport, and I loved to try out for everything. And I did, and then I made the team. It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
You guys practiced on the river?
Ergs. Well, we did. We're on the river, and then indoor practices on the ergs and the rowing machines, and yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. So did you compete against like Big 12?
K-State, Texas. We would go to Austin and go there for spring break and row in Texas, and then Oklahoma and Iowa, and yeah.
Ever compete against Baylor?
I don't think so. Not that I remember. That was a long time ago.
I'm a Baylor grad, as everybody knows. So anyway, all right. Well, cool. So, so you out of Rockhurst. Let's see. When did you get married? Right out or prior to that?
Yeah, I got married in 2012, and then I graduated with my master's in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always loved telling the story when I was at your wedding. It was in June, and it was hot and outside.
It was.
Danny's like 6'8" and was All-American, and in NAIA basketball. And I remember telling people, I said, I remember playing basketball with Danny on the driveway and beating him. And you could just see the audience go, what is this guy talking about, And I said, then when he turned 7... It was all over. He was schooling me after that anyway. Yeah. But no, that's great memories. Fun wedding.
Yeah, it was a hot wedding. It was June 30th, and it was literally the hottest day of the year. And I insisted on an outdoor wedding because, I had a dream. But
well, you were beautiful, and it was awesome.
Thank you.
Loved it.
Thank you for being a part of it. We were so glad.
Yeah, and then your kids are so much fun.
Oh, my gosh. They're crazy, but they're great.
So cool.
Yeah. 2 girls. And Danny grew up with all boys, and, and then his brother had 2 boys out the gate. And so he was like, how did I end up with all girls? But no, they keep us on our toes. Never boring.
Reminds me, your pediatrician, who is one of my close friends, Scott Rogers, has 4 daughters, which I'm just like, so he always needs a little testosterone,
for
mountain
sure.
bike and all that kind of stuff. So
I know.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some fun ideas that you've had with another part of your career, which is not only speech pathology, but Lala Inspired.
I know.
I love
Isn't
that
a
name.
Fun name.
Lala Inspired. Tell us about that.
Well, so it actually has a funny story. So Lauren Hawkins Photography was my original business. And then that's like actually kind of a common name. And so there were other people trying to use my domain or tagging me in things that wasn't me. And so I was like, I want to be original. I don't want, something that gets confused easily. I wanted to stand out. And so my Instagram was Lala Inspired. Lala was a nickname someone gave me in college. And I just wanted to inspire people through photos and posts and stories about people's lives. And so I combined the two to create that. No one really calls me Lala anymore. But I always wanted a nickname growing up. And so I just put it on there. So that's the story.
Nice.
But yeah, so some of the things I do with that right now is mainly photography and videography and kind of like interview-based videos.
Right. And you're posting quite often on your Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell people how they can
check me out,
follow you on that?
Yeah. So if you search on Facebook, in the search section, just search Lala Inspired Photos, you'll find me. Or on Instagram, just search Lala Inspired and you'll find me. I also have a website, www.lalainspired.com. So it's very unique and original, so it's easy. No one had to compete for that name, so I got it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was one of the things that you had a vision for.
Yeah.
And it overlapped with something that I was doing with my dad.
Yeah.
So it's funny. My dad, as you know, is a storyteller, and he loves to tell stories. And I've heard some of his stories from growing up to Coast Guard, to meeting Mom, to growing up, to fishing stories, all these things. And of course, all of his stories with his grandkids and his great grandkids and all that. But he's such a great storyteller. And then we had so many funny stories that we've experienced through growing up through fishing and all that kind of stuff. I always thought I need to do a book. But then I finally, I never got down to writing it all. And then I finally started doing this podcasting and stuff. And I thought, well, I'm just going to do Dad's stories. But you actually shared your idea with me even before I started doing that. So it kind of sparked me to start doing what I'm doing. So some of the folks might have been listening to some of my, Sunday dad. I release a dad story every Sunday now, and I've released, I don't know, just a handful so far. But tell a little bit about your idea, and that kind of sparked me with my dad's stories and all that kind of stuff. So
So honestly, so what I do with speech therapy is I work with geriatric patients, so elderly patients mainly, and I work on memory and things like that. And the best part of my job is hearing their stories. It's crazy, the things that they've gone through. So much life has been lived. Like, I come home and tell Danny the most amazing things, and I'm like, oh, I just want to tell everyone about these stories all the time. And so one time I was sleeping in bed and woke up, and I felt the Lord speak to me and say, this is the vision I have for you, and I want you to combine your love for this population and hearing their stories, as well as the talent and the passion you have for photography and videography. And I went to my closet and I was writing down all these ideas and vision board of how this would all look. And I was actually really nervous to put anything out there because I didn't want it to be great or not be great and me put something out there. But I finally talked to some girlfriends in a small group, and they were like, you just need to put it out there, especially during this time with COVID. People cannot interact with their loved ones, especially in the facilities that I'm allowed in, and a lot of people aren't. And they would love to hear these stories about their loved ones. And so I call it time capsules. And so I interview loved ones. Families give me questions and I interview them and I do a photo session with them. And it's just amazing to hear these stories and to give it to families to have forever. Just stories about mom growing up or things they want to leave behind and just happy memories. And another thing I didn't anticipate is I'm even getting asked to do these for people who are like on hospice or having stage 4 cancer, or they also want to time capsule that person's life. So it's really opened kind of a big door for me, but I feel like it's definitely a calling for sure.
I love that.
I know. I was like, cool. Love it. I had another gentleman the other day who I interviewed and just telling me stories about just when they were youth and when they were kids, and you just hear so much life in these people. And it's important to remember like them not only for how they are now, but just the life they lived in. I just like to be able to hold that for families and let them remember that. So
that's great. I've been reading a lot of books on the neuroscience of the brain. So I've been reading books by neuroscientists, brain neuroscientists, and a little above my head, but it's been fascinating to me. There's just a little bit of overlap with this dementia issue, and you probably know way more about this, but this. So one of the guys was describing dementia, like so that other people could relate to it, is like when you wake up in the morning and you have a dream, and like when you're in the dream state, it could be really vivid, but then you wake up and like, have you ever had one like in 15 minutes it's just gone?
Yeah,
you can't remember it.
Yeah,
and and this neuroscientist said that that's kind of like what dementia is like.
Yeah.
For patients. And that really helped me go, oh, wow, that's crazy. Because that short-term memory, but their long-term can still be
for sure
amazing, right? Have you watched that?
Yes, for sure. People will know, I'll ask them a lot of the times. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to ask them what happened last week. But if I ask them, how was your wedding or how'd your husband propose, sometimes they can rattle it off just like that. They just have such amazing stories. Everyone has a story. I interviewed this one lady and she was like, I don't have a story or anything. Like, I'm not going to be, exciting to interview. And her family loved listening to everything she said. And they're like, I never knew that before. And it's just, and I'm like, what do you want to get out now? Like, what do you want to say? And it's nice because I get to make these relationships and these connections with people. And I really feel blessed and fortunate to be able to do that. So
that's awesome. One thing that's been super popular in the last probably 20 years is like things like, and I'm not trying to give a plug to this, but like Ancestry.com and all these things and people, I don't know what age, but they start kind of having a curiosity about their history and their family lines and all that kind of stuff. And I've actually heard stories of people like in tears reading about something in their family background, like maybe generations ago that just all of a sudden impacts them in a positive way. And so I'm like going, what a cool thing to provide. I mean, who knows with these, this could go.
Yeah, how many generations?
Somebody could be watching this 100 years from now.
Exactly.
Which is
think
crazy. About
it, like watching a video of your great grandma and like, or your great whatever. But sometimes we'll ask them like, what is marriage advice you want to give, or something you want to leave? How do you want to be remembered? What's parenting advice? You're like, this is like priceless information, like from people who are near and dear and, just know part of your family.
Yeah. I always find it funny. Some of my friends are like really, really funny about little principles or little rules or like little lessons with so-and-so.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like they always have a little lesson for
Yeah,
all these.
yeah.
And I always thought that'd be so hilarious just to do little short, like lessons with
Oh my
Uncle
goodness.
Bob.
Yes. And they're so like, not that they don't care, but like they're very like say whatever they want, you know, and you don't know what they're going to say half the time, which is wonderful. It's great, but they're just very candid.
Yeah, and I'm always drawn to the funny stories.
Yes,
you know, like these. Like I'm getting my dad to tell all of these stories about how ornery he was growing up, and
I
like,
can see it.
He never told me these stories when I was growing up. Right, I was always just getting my butt spanked, you know. But then when I got older and into college and all that kind of stuff, all of a sudden he starts telling me all these like. Well, no wonder all of us kids were so crazy. It's like we inherited it.
It was, yeah.
Funny stuff. Well, cool. Well, is there any other thoughts you want to share about Lala Inspired?
Yeah. Just check it out, reach out. And just even if you want to come follow me, because you'll see some inspiring content, if you hear a story from someone else's loved one, it may touch you in some way. So yeah, it's just a nice service that I feel blessed to be able to offer.
Very cool. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks everybody for joining us at Spirituality Adventures. Have a great day and we'll see you next time.
Hybrid Media Production.